good evening, everybody. It's very wonderful to be here at this event, and I think that I want to emphasize something that was just said. This is the first, but it's not the last. It's also very wonderful that there are so many filmmakers in the audience here tonight, and I feel very excited that I know a number of them, having gotten to know them over the years. But we are acknowledging those who are with us right now. But we heard earlier that we also need to know about our ancestors and who came before us and who were the people who were doing these types of things before us. We don't know who all of those people were. We don't know who all the native filmmakers were, the native Hawaiian filmmakers or other types of native indigenous people throughout the world. Not too many of those folks were making films or video productions for many years, and Anne-Marie asked me to address why that is. Why is it now that we finally are encountering this? Well, those of you who have been in the film business, if you will, as filmmakers for a long time, know that it wasn't so long ago that making films was really a very difficult process, wasn't it? It was a difficult process technologically. And that's because if we go back to the very beginning of when film started, that was in the 1890s. And when that happened, the first type of film that became popular was 35mm film. And that's the film that we still go to see when we go to a movie theater today. It's kind of astonishing that over 100 years later, we're still using that same technology. But the difference, or the important thing about 35mm film was that it was very expensive, and the filmmaking equipment, the cameras, were very big and bulky. And it was expensive to have the film processed. And so as a result, we see the way the whole industry developed was that major Hollywood studios took on filmmaking because it was so difficult, because it was so cumbersome. In 1923, Kodak introduced 16mm film for the first time, and that's when, for the very first time, amateur films became possible. And that's when people, for the first time, began to shoot home movies. And that also enabled smaller filmmakers to start to create their own films. But it was still a situation where the film had to get sent to the lab to be processed, and then when you got it back, you had to physically cut it and edit it onto reels. And once sound film came into use in the late 1920s, that added another really complex layer to the whole filmmaking process. In the 1930s, 8mm film was developed, and that enabled even more people to get into filmmaking because it was even more inexpensive and the equipment was even smaller. But that type of film was pretty much only used for amateur productions. People showed it in their own homes, but you couldn't take it to the theater and show it. In the late 1950s, there was an important change to videotape. But videotape, when it first started in 1958, like film, started out very big, very expensive, and very cumbersome. The first videotape format that was in use was 2-inch videotape. That's this big. And only professional TV stations ever used it. And as with film, videotape went through a similar type of progression, becoming increasingly smaller, and the equipment becoming easier to use, to the point where in the 1980s it became possible to shoot your own home videos. If we come up to today, we see a thing which even 20 years ago or 10 years ago was almost unimaginable. People can shoot their own productions on equipment that is handheld literally in the palm of your hand, and even more importantly, they can edit it at home. And for those who've been through the editing process for film and for videotape, the way it used to be, it's very hard to conceive what a major, incredible change that is. So as we see this progression having happened, we also see that the equipment and the material gets into the hands of people who aren't necessarily part of the whole professional realm. For the first time, starting in the 1980s and increasingly up to today, younger people, less experienced people, people with less money are able to tell their own stories using the equipment and the technology that has evolved that's now enabling that to happen. And the other thing that's changed very much too is the venues in which these types of productions can be shown, because now not only are there film festivals, but also there's the entire electronic internet realm in which you can not only make your own productions, but you can post them, and people throughout the world can see what you're doing. So when you ask the question of who was doing what in the past, we can't say with assurance when the first native Hawaiian filmmaker ever shot the first film for that particular person. And we can't say either what all those various productions have been in the past, because many of them don't exist anymore, because as time has passed they've deteriorated. So there's many that's lost. There's a lot of information and a lot of films that have been lost to us. But we acknowledge those people who came before us, and we also acknowledge now that the way things have come together, there's more of a market and there's more of a possibility for these films to be created. And that's what we're seeing here tonight, the venue by which these types of Native Hawaiian films can be shown, and we can look forward to a future where increasingly Native Hawaiian people are telling their own stories as the evolution of technology has enabled them to do it. So we see ourselves kind of at a pivotal point here tonight, where all of the things that have happened in the past have led up to this, and now from here forward we're going to see more of it and more of these stories being told, like what we'll see tonight and in the rest of the festival. Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha. Aloha.
What you had tonight was simply awesome. Can you explain to some of the people who watch what I do more about what this was about?
Yes, this is a film festival that's honoring Indigenous filmmakers and producers, and this is the first of its kind here at the Doris Theater, Honolulu Academy of Arts. And I think what's really important about this festival, besides the fact that it is Indigenous filmmakers, is that, well, you want to take it from there?
Well, the Doris Theater has given a venue for Native Hawaiian filmmakers to have their voices heard and have films with our representation of who we are. It's not to say what's come before by other filmmakers who are non-Hawaiians aren't good pieces, but it's time for us now to have the world see who we are through our films. And so we have a month of films at the Doris Theater. We want everyone to come out. Please go online, honoluluacademy.org, and click on Doris Theater, and then go to films, and you can buy your tickets online right there. And this is Eliana and Becky, and they're also part of the team, so ladies.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
It was an awesome experience to be part of this group. We come from very different backgrounds, as you might hear from my accent. So each one of us would bring in something different and see through different eyes the same thing. And it was it was wonderful to see how all of this came together to give even more sense to putting together this festival and giving it a direction. And again, yeah, I'm also very happy that this is the venue, which is you know, a historical place in Honolulu, and it's giving finally space to the people, the indigenous filmmakers of Hawaii, to express themselves, come together, and continue them from here.
That's beautiful.
Mahalo very much. And again, that website was where you could go to?
It's honoluluacademy.org. And if you click on museum, you go to Doris Theater, and then you go to film, and then you can get all the information, scroll down, and there you are.
And this will be happening from the 1st till
the 26th.
The 26th. Mahalo, mahalo. Thank you very much. You have an awesome night, and I enjoyed myself thoroughly. Again, aloha to you. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Come and enjoy.